The living entity, because he is transcendental, has nothing to do with nature. Still, because he is conditioned, he is acting under the spell of the three modes. Because living entities have different kind of bodies because of their past karma, they are acting according to that nature. This is the cause of happiness and distress. The mode of goodness is first. Those who are conditioned by it are wiser and happier than those who are conditioned by the other two modes. The person in the mode of passion sees everything colored by his unlimited desires, and he experiences a thirst or hankering for boundless material enjoyment. Because of his desires, he is forced to engage in karma sangha, or hard work. As explained in BG 3.37, the mode of passion tends to degrade to ignorance. The soul is transcendental. Even being inside the body, the soul is not affected by what the body does or what happens to the body.
Okay, where did you read from?
I read from Bhagavad Gita and I took notes from Surrender Unto Me.
Where?
Surrender Unto Me?
Bhagavad Gita, what verse? Oh, this is the, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so what page?
276, wait.
Okay, this is 276?
280.
What? 280?
280.
Okay. So to summarize what you read, can you summarize what you read? The main point? Main points? I mean, the homework was that you were supposed to understand
How the body does everything and how the soul does nothing.
Yeah, how the soul does nothing, right. So always start homework with what the question is. So how do you summarize what you just read?
So when the living entity comes into this material world, he is conditioned by the three modes, and because of his past karma, he acts according to that nature, whatever he was in his past life.
Mm-hmm.
And then the soul is transcendental, so even when he's still in our body, it still is not affected by what we do.
Well, that's my question. Does the soul suffer?
Yes.
Huh?
Yes.
Yes?
No.
No? No? Okay. Anybody else want to answer that question? Yes?
Because it's eternally blissful.
So you're no. Your answer is no.
No.
Yes or no?
No, meaning the soul does not.
Okay, so that's two no's. Okay. Anybody else? Samart, do you want to say something? Does the soul suffer?
No.
That's three no's. Okay. Arush?
No.
No, that's four no's. Okay. And?
No.
No, that's five no's. Okay. Prabhu, what do you think? No, that's six no's. It's a six no's. How big is your nose? Okay. Well, this is what we're going to discuss based on your answers. So, go ahead. You want to? It's just.
So, the homework is explain how the soul does nothing, but the body does something. And my reference verses are Bhagavad Gita 13 chapter 30th verse, 13 chapter 33rd verse, 14 chapter 5th verse, 14 chapter 19th verse, 3rd chapter 27th verse. Also from Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st canto 2nd chapter 33rd verse, and 3rd canto 30th chapter 4th verse. So the soul is Satchitananda, eternally blissful and knowledgeable.
Slower and louder.
The soul is Satchitananda, eternally blissful and knowledgeable.
Okay, right there. What you want to say is the soul is Satchitananda Vigraha. Mayavadis say it's Satchitananda. Devotees say it's Satchitananda Vigraha. In other words, it has
The form.
has a form, yeah. If you say it's just Satchitananda, it doesn't mean, it could imply that it doesn't have a form.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the soul is Satchitananda Vigraha, eternally blissful and knowledgeable. However, the soul also has a tendency to fall down. This is because we are Akshara, or fallible, while the super soul is Akshara, or infallible.
You know what you want to do is, like that statement is Shara. Well, no, first of all, has a tendency to fall down. So where did you get that? Yeah, you could put in the parentheses the Bhagavad Gita verse where that's, or purport where that's said.
So this was said in Bhagavad Gita.
Well, you don't have to do it now.
Okay.
But you could correct
Oh,
this.
and I corrected. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is because we are Akshara, or fallible, while the super soul is Akshara, or infallible.
So that's another thing you can put the quote where
Yeah.
it is. Yeah, go ahead.
Our tendency to fall down causes us to become conditioned, and hence we are placed in the material world. As said in Bhagavad Gita 14 chapter 5th verse, material nature consists of 3 modes: goodness, passion, and ignorance. When the eternal living entity comes in contact with the nature, O mighty armed Arjuna, he becomes conditioned by these modes. It is important to understand that the soul is always pure, but the consciousness, which is the symptom of the soul, gets conditioned. Even though the soul is in the material world, it does not combine with the surrounding field of activities. As explained by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita 13 chapter 33rd verse, the sky, due to its subtle nature, does not mix with anything, although it is all-pervading. Similarly, the soul situated in Brahman vision does not mix with the body, though situated in that body. Just like oil does not combine with water, the soul is situated in the material world without getting affected by it. This means that the soul neither performs activities nor reacts in the material nature. Hence, the soul actually does nothing. All of the actions are performed by the material body due to the corrupted consciousness. So the body.
So do you have a reference for that? Those statements?
For the body.
Well, from similarly, the soul situated in Brahman vision does not mix with the body. Okay, so that's 1333. Those situated in body. Okay. Now, the rest of the statement that's not a quote. Just like oil does not combine with water, the soul is situated in the material world without getting affected by it. This means that the soul neither performs activities nor reacts in the material nature. Do you have a quote for that?
No, I don't.
No? So, okay. Hence the soul actually does nothing. All of the actions are performed by the material body due to the corrupted consciousness. So that's correct. Just this one thing. This means that the soul neither performs activity nor reacts in the material nature. That I have a question about. Is that a statement you made or you read that somewhere?
Oh, that's a statement I made.
Okay. So we want to... okay, go ahead. Finish. There's a question mark there.
Okay.
You have to see if that's a correct statement or not.
So the body, on the other hand, is purely made of the modes of material nature and is temporary. It is controlled by the modes of material nature, like how the puppeteer...
Wait a minute. It's made of the modes of material nature. Okay, second question mark. It doesn't mean it's wrong, but we're going to find scriptural justification for that. Okay, go ahead.
It is controlled by the modes of material nature, like how the puppeteer controls the puppet and makes it dance. Srila Prabhupada says in the purport of Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.33 that there are 8.4 million species of living beings, beginning from the highest intellectual being, Brahma, down to the insignificant ant, and all of them are enjoying the material world according to the desires of the subtle mind and gross material body. So according to our past karma and our unfulfilled desires, we are given a new body for the next lifetime. There are two parts of the material body, the gross and the subtle. The gross body needs sleep every night, it needs sufficient food 3 times a day, it needs to excrete at least once a day, etc. However, due to the subtle body, mind, intelligence, and false ego, the gross body submits to desires such as overeating or sleeping too much, etc. We can properly control the actions of the body when our consciousness is situated in the correct philosophy, darshana, or how to see properly. To understand real philosophy, Srila Prabhupada says in the purport of Bhagavad Gita 14 chapter 9th verse that it is from those who are fully in Krishna consciousness that one has to learn the science of activities. From the bona fide spiritual master, one can understand his spiritual position, material body, the senses, how they are entrapped, and how they are under the modes of material nature. Most importantly, we must learn to do everything for Krishna. This is the real application of the philosophy. We should eat, sleep, excrete, etc. for the well-being of the body so that we may perform devotional service and not for sense gratification. One might ask how their consciousness might be purified if they have an accumulation of karma. It is important to understand that anyone can take up Krishna consciousness and purify the consciousness because the only thing which is not regulated by karma is surrendering unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This means that the soul is always allowed the choice to go back to Krishna.
Very good. Very good. Okay, who is next? Who wants to read next? Does Arush want to read next? Go ahead.
The question was how does the soul do nothing? The soul does nothing because...
Explain how soul does nothing, body does something.
No, I didn't do that part.
Okay, go ahead. Explain how the soul does nothing.
The soul does nothing because the soul is transcendental and has nothing to do with the material nature. Still, the soul is conditioned by material world because the soul is under the spell of the 3 modes of material nature.
Okay. So, it's the modes of material nature force the body. Does it force the body or the soul?
The body?
Yeah. Forces the body to do things. Right? Yeah, like you eat, then you have to eat. You're forced to eat. Then because you eat, you're forced to pass stool. You're forced to sleep. You're also forced to wake up eventually. So everything we do is forced on us by the body. Okay, go ahead.
Material nature consists 3 modes: goodness, passion, and ignorance. If the body gets in contact with the modes, he will be conditioned by these modes. The soul is sinless and conditioned in the mode of goodness. The soul is purer than everything. The soul frees one from all sinful reactions. Whoever is situated in the mode of goodness becomes conditioned by a sense of happiness and knowledge. The soul is transcendental. Passion is born of infinite desires and longings, and because of this, it is limited in material fruitive activities. Delusion of the body creates ignorance. The result of ignorance is madness, indolence, and sleep, which bind the conditioned soul. Goodness means happiness. Passion means fruitive activities. Ignorance means madness. Sometimes the mode of goodness becomes prominent, defeating ignorance and passion, and sometimes the other modes become more prominent, than the others. This is like a competition. The manifestations of the mode of goodness can be experienced when the body is illuminated by knowledge. When there is increase, the soul is transcendental. But when the soul is covered by the material body, he or she is under the modes of material nature. The living entity executes his or her activities under the influence of the three modes of material nature. But when the living entity thinks himself as a soul, then the soul motivates the living entity to do all its activities as a service to Krishna. So in fact, the soul also does work. All work that the soul does is to take itself back home, back to Godhead.
Okay. Good. Good. Okay, Samart. Tulsi, did you do your homework? Good. Ria? Huh? You forgot. Okay. Your mom didn't remind you? No? Did she remind you and you didn't do it, or she didn't remind you? Okay. Samart.
Assignment. Explain how the soul does nothing and the body does something. Use Bhagavad Gita 14.5, Bhagavad Gita 14.19, Bhagavad Gita 13.30, Bhagavad Gita 13.33, and Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.33 as references. How the soul does nothing. The soul is Satchit Ananda Vigraha. The super soul is the director of the material nature which makes this body, and the body only performs activities under the influence of material nature, and the soul is not the actor in those activities. The soul is outside of all bodily activities. Also, the soul does not mix with the body even though it is in the body. An example of this is mixing water and oil together. When you put oil and water, it does not mix and is still in the water. How the body does everything. Either if one wants to do something for their happiness or for their distress, they will have to do it because of the mind and bodily needs. For example, when you are hungry, you need to eat. This body is made from one's past desires and the subtle mind. To fulfill desires that one wanted, one is given the body with which one acts. For example, at the end of one's life, if one wants to eat a lot, in their next life they will become a hog. Material nature is of three modes, which are goodness, passion, and ignorance. When the living entity comes in association with nature, he becomes conditioned by these modes. When you are in Krishna consciousness, you will not be conditioned by these modes. In the 17th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, it says that one who surrenders unto Krishna is relieved from these modes. Also, in the Bhagavad Gita, there is a picture of the puppets and puppeteers. The puppet is controlled by the puppeteer. If you're in Krishna consciousness, you will never be a puppet.
Okay. And Tulsi. How about Murli? Okay. You don't have to answer, Murli. We understood by your smile. You didn't.
The homework was how the soul does nothing and how the body does everything.
Yes.
The living entity is not the performer of different activities. The jiva is forced to act in a certain way because he is situated in a particular mode of material nature. By the instructions of a bona fide spiritual master, a living entity can know of his spiritual position, his material body, his senses, how he is entrapped, and how he is under the spell of the modes of material nature.
Good.
He is helpless being in the grip of these modes, but when he can see his real position, then he can attain to the transcendental platform, having the scope for spiritual life. The body fulfills the soul's desires by working on them.
By what?
By working on them.
Okay.
The body
On them or working under them?
under them.
Yeah.
The body moves and does everything. The soul keeps the body alive and makes the body do what the soul wants it to do.
Mm-hmm. That's it? Okay. Okay, good. So now the question is, we have 6 people that believe that the soul doesn't suffer. Is that right? Well, now we're going to analyze this question. So also Shasta said that the soul is situated in the material world without getting affected by it. And then the body, on the other hand, is purely made of the modes of material nature and is temporary. So this is related. Then this is related to our question: does the soul suffer? Shasta says that the soul is situated in the material world without getting affected by it. So let's separate 2 points. Point 1 is that the soul is not changed in any way when it comes in contact with the material nature. Okay, stop doing that, will you? You make noise and everything. Why are you doing that? Is it because you want to make a design, or is this... Okay, so stop doing that. So, the soul is never changed in any way by coming in contact with the material nature. What does that mean? Murli, you know what that means? No? Oh, well, at least you're honest. That's good. Anyone? The soul is never changed. Okay, does it stop being eternal because it's in a material body? Okay, so it never changes, right? It's always remains the same. Now, when we say something is affected, A-F-F-E-C-T, means it's influenced, right? So from the point of view of its eternality, the soul is not affected. Now the question is, does the soul suffer? And by the way, this is a fundamental question everybody has. Why is there suffering? But what's suffering? What do you think is suffering? Is there something that is suffering? Does the carpet suffer? No. Do you suffer? Okay, so what is it? Is it only your body? Or is it the soul also? Huh? The soul? But I had 6 people saying that the soul is not affected by suffering. Are you changing your position now? No? So then why did you say the soul is suffering? Huh? The body is suffering? But if someone insults you, is your body suffering? What's suffering? The false ego? Yeah. Well, see, this is a question now. Is the soul affected by the false ego? So, Mark, what do you think? Okay, now see, this is an interesting question, right? And there's a lot of research that can be done on this question. Like, for example, Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 7, verse number 5. Write that down. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 7, verse number 5. So, this verse says, now listen carefully, due to this external energy, talking about the material energy, right? The living entity, although transcendental to the three modes of material nature, thinks of himself as a material product and thus undergoes the reactions of material miseries. So now let me ask the question. Is it the soul that suffers, or the body that suffers, or is it both that suffer? Or is it neither one that suffers? Or is it only the body that suffers? Yes, Arush. What? None of them? Nothing suffers? You don't suffer at all? The body and the false ego. Okay, that's a good answer. Anybody else have an answer? Yes. Yes, Prabhu?
Maharaj, the soul, because it believes it is a body, experiences the illusion of pain.
Yeah, that's what this is saying. That although the soul is transcendental to the three modes of material nature, the soul thinks of himself as a material product and thus undergoes the reactions of material miseries. Right. It's a very interesting subject. So, in the purport, Prabhupada says, the root cause of suffering by the materialistic living beings is pointed out with remedial measures. It means the solution to the problem of suffering, which are to be undertaken and also the ultimate perfection to be gained. So there is suffering. Right. So it says here, all this is mentioned in this particular verse. So this verse is a huge meaning to it. In one verse, all this is explained. Okay, so the living being is by constitution transcendental to material engagement, but he is now imprisoned by the external energy, and therefore he thinks himself one of the material products. Do you know anybody who thinks of themselves as one of the material products, or a result of materialism or material energy? Anybody, you know anyone that thinks of themselves like that? Okay, we'll finish after the class. So this is what happens when you come so late. If you come at 8 o'clock, you already missed half the class, right? So you have to come on time, Hare Krishna, so that we can finish on time. The class shouldn't take more than 1 hour. Jai, Jai.
Yashomati Nandana Brajabaranagara Gokula Ranjana Kana Yashomati Nandana Brajabaranagara Gokula Ranjana Kana Gopi Paranadana Madana Manohara Gopi Paranadana Madana Manohara Kaliya Damana Vidana Amala Harinamamiya Vilasa Amala Harinamamiya Vilasa Vipina Purandara Navina Nagara Bora Bamsi Badana Suvasa Brajajana Palana Surakulanasana Brajajana Palana Surakulanasana Nanda Godana Rakovala Govinda Madhava Navanita Taskara Govinda Madhava Navanita Taskara Sundarananda Gopala Jamuna Tatachara Gopi Basanahara Rasa Rasika Kripa Moya Shri Radha Vallabha Vrindavana Natabara Shri Radha Vallabha Vrindavana Natabara Bhakti Vinoda Shraya Yashomati Nandana Brajabaranagara Gokula Ranjana Kana Jayo Radha Nila Madhav Radha Nila Madhav Radhe Jayo Radha Nila Madhav Radha Nila Madhav Radhe Jayo Lakshmi Narasimha, Jayo Lakshmi Narasimha, Jayo Lakshmi Narasimha, Jayo Lakshmi Narasimha. Jayo Sita Ram, Jayo Sita Ram, Jayo Sita Ram, Jayo Lakshman Hanuman. Jayo Jagannatha, Jayo Jagannatha, Jayo Baladeva, Jayo Subhadra. Jayo Nitai Gauranga, Jayo Nitai Gauranga, Jayo Nitai Gauranga, Jayo Nitai Gauranga. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol.
So our question today is, does the soul suffer? So here in Srimad Bhagavatam, in first canto, chapter 7, text number 5, it says that although the soul is transcendental to the three modes of material nature, those souls who think they are a material product, they undergo the reactions of material miseries. So, the root cause of suffering by the materialistic living beings is pointed out with remedial measures. The living being is by constitution transcendental to material engagement, but he is now imprisoned by the external energy, and therefore he thinks himself one of the material products. And due to this unholy contact, the pure spiritual entity suffers material miseries under the modes of material nature. So the spiritual entity suffers material miseries under the modes of material nature. The living entity misunderstands itself to be a material product. This means that the present perverted way of thinking, feeling, and willing under material conditions is not natural for him, but he has his normal way of thinking, feeling, and willing. The living being in his original state is not without thinking, willing, and feeling power. So, do they teach you in school that you are only a body and there's no soul? Yes? Yeah? What grade are you in? And you actually heard some people say that? You what? Heart. Yeah. It's a fact. Early on they teach you this. So when you learn that, then whatever happens to your body affects your soul. It doesn't change the soul's position as being eternal. But due to this ignorance, the soul suffers. Just like if a person is ignorant, then they think meat and wine and marijuana are actually good. That's because of ignorance. Is meat, wine, and marijuana good? What do you think? Who wants? Someone believe it's good? Raise your hand. If you think it's bad, raise your hand. Okay, so yeah, but some kids, they think that meat and wine and marijuana is good. Do you know anyone that eats meat? You know anyone that drinks wine? Yeah. You know anyone that smokes marijuana? Whoa! Who do you know that smokes marijuana? No, really?
Yeah, she saw me yesterday. She was with me with her
How do you know that they were smoking marijuana?
No,
He was just smoking. You don't know if it was marijuana or just a cigarette, huh? Huh? Oh, really? What? Said so? Oh. It said so that the father smokes marijuana. Wow. Are they devotees? Okay. They're interested? Okay, well, the more interest they have, maybe the dad will stop smoking marijuana. Yes? Yeah. Yeah, but that's a secondary protein. How did the animal that they're eating to have protein get the protein? Where did that animal get it? Did it eat meat also? Like, what kind of meat do they eat? They eat pigs or they eat cows? Huh? What else? Meat? Turkey, right. Well, cows don't eat meat, right? But yet, they have a lot of protein. Right? And what was the first thing you said? Yeah. Huh? Chicken. Chickens, they like to eat like, grains, but they can also eat, well, if they're really hungry, they can eat dead bodies also. Yeah, they don't feed them meat in the factories. Yeah. It makes mainly grains and things like that. So, you see, the protein in the meat is a secondary protein. Most of the animals that people eat to have protein are herbivores or vegetarians. The cows are vegetarian. The chicken, for the most part, is vegetarian. They don't want it to eat meat in the factory farms. Yeah. They eat eggs. That's right. Yeah. Comes from a chicken. Well, an egg is a very powerful thing because it's going to give life. It's meant to give life. So it has to sustain life in the beginning stages, right? And the body of the chicken is formed in the egg, is it not? So that means all the nutrients are in that egg. So it's a high nutrient food, but we don't eat it because it's meant for giving life. Where does it come? Where does the egg come from? So is the chicken an animal or not? So it is an animal product. Product means it comes from something, right? Yeah. Okay, what they say is it's an unfertilized egg. If it's a fertilized egg, then it will give birth to a chicken. If it's an unfertilized egg, it will not give birth to a chicken, right? So then, it's an unfertilized egg. Would you eat okay, so, but it's still coming out of the chicken, right? So, it is an animal product. Where? In the bus, yes. Yeah. Because that's also coming from an animal, yes. But it's not coming from the chicken. Is the milk coming from the chicken? It's coming from the cow. Cows is different than the chicken, right? Like, for example, anyway, the cow, everything about the cow is auspicious. Is everything about the chicken auspicious? No. So there's a big difference between the cow and the chicken. Yes. I mean, for example, rats also have milk. Would you drink the rat milk? Dogs also have milk. Would you drink the dog milk? Right? So, you see that everything is not equal. The chicken is not equal to the cow. Yes. Go ahead. Tulsi first. What? In China what? Yeah, let's talk into the microphone. In China what?
So in China, they made a machine kind of thing, and then so they just bought a carton of eggs. I don't know if it's real or not. They bought a carton of eggs, and then so they took an egg, they cracked it and put in this like little thing, and then so the inside of the machine heats up the egg, the yolk and everything, and like in 2 or 3 weeks, a chick came out.
Okay.
I don't know if it's true or not.
Well, the inside of the egg is the nutrient, and if they impregnate the egg with the seed from the rooster, then you're going to have a chick come out, right? So it's like having a test tube baby. It still has a mother and father. Yeah, yeah. It's like a test tube baby. But you still have to have the egg, and you have to have the rooster. Yeah. Okay, so the suffering is due to ignorance. Suffering is due to ignorance, by falsely identifying with the body. So whatever happens to the body affects the confused soul. Like, for example, every day there are many accidents, right? Now, when some other person in a different car than your car has an accident, does it affect you? No. You just drive by it. Say, oh, too bad, just drive by. When you have the accident and your car gets accidented, does it affect you? You see? Why? Because you're identifying with the car. It's out of ignorance. It's not that any accident with any car affects you. No. It's your accident in your car, or an accident in your neighbor's car that you were driving in, that you were also riding in, would affect you. So this attachment to something that is material can cause suffering. So let's say you received $100 bill, Arush, right? Someone gave you $100 bill, and you put it in your pocket, and you were thinking, goody, goody, I have $100. And then the next time you put your hand in your pocket, there was no $100. Would you be affected by it? Yeah, you'd say, well, you go, I put it in here just an hour ago, it's not there anymore. So somebody pickpocketed you, took the $100. Now, does that cause you some kind of suffering? Yeah. You thought you had something, and then somebody pickpocketed you. Now, there are hundreds and thousands and millions and maybe billions of $100 bills. You just had one $100 bill, and it was taken away from you from a thief, and it affected you. Now, if somebody else has a $100 bill and they lose it, or a thief takes their $100 bill, does that affect you? No. You see? You see how it is? It's by associating our eternal soul with something material and becoming attached to it that can cause suffering, even though the soul is transcendental. Yes, Tulsi, what do you want to say? But the microphone, speak into the microphone.
Like if someone loses $100, like their friends worry, oh, what happened to your $100, and they help you look for it.
Yeah, but what if you don't find it? Okay, but wait a minute. What if it was your $100?
I would worry.
Yeah, see. Okay. The living entity misunderstands himself to be a material product. This means that the present perverted way of thinking, feeling, and willing under material conditions is not natural for him. But he has his normal way of thinking, feeling, and willing. The living being in his original state is not without thinking, willing, and feeling power. It is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita that the actual knowledge of the conditioned soul is now covered by ignorance. Thus, the theory that a living being is absolute impersonal Brahman is refuted herein. This cannot be, because the living entity has its own way of thinking in its original unconditional state. Wow, this is a subtle point. Prabhupada is saying here that if our original state is, as the Mayavadis say, merged into the Brahman, then we would not have our own way of thinking, feeling, and willing. Like, for example, we think, it would be nice if I could eat some ice cream. And then we feel how good it would feel to eat ice cream, especially strawberry ice cream. And then we will. I must eat ice cream today, otherwise I'm not going to be happy. You ever have that feeling, Murli? Huh? Let's say we were serving ice cream downstairs in the prasadam hall, and your mother told you can't have any ice cream, Murli. And all the other kids have ice cream, and they're going, yummy, yum, yum. So, would you feel happy or sad? Yes. You see, that's the whole point. So, therefore, when you become attached to something material, it can do two things to you. Either it can make you happy or it can make you sad. If you can't have it, you become sad. If you have it, you feel happy. Now, is that happiness real happiness? No, it's based on sense gratification. I mean, there's some feeling of happiness, but it's temporary. It's not eternal. So it's a false type of happiness. Okay. So this is explained in Bhagavad Gita. Now, your homework is to read. This is a long purport, actually. Well, it's only 3 pages. Your homework is Canto 1, Chapter 7, text number 5. Now, what are we trying to do here? Although the soul is transcendental, it can never change. It's always transcendental. It's always eternal. But yet, it can get affected by ignorance and unnecessarily suffer. Unnecessarily suffer. In other words, suffering is unnecessary. But because of ignorance, we suffer. And even though our soul is eternal, but by getting the wrong information, believing I am this body, there's only matter, there's no soul, there's no God, there's nothing after death, we begin to suffer because of that misinformation. So your homework is Canto 1, Chapter 7, verse 5 and verse 6. Verse 6 says that material miseries are a living entity which are superfluous to him. You know what that word superfluous means? No. Okay, write this down. S-U-P-E-R. S-U-P-E-R. Super. S-U-P-E-R. But when it's in this word, it's pronounced superfluous. And then second part of the word, F-L-U-O-U-S. S-U-P-E-R, F-L-U-O-U-S. Superfluous. It says the material miseries, it means superfluous means it has nothing to do with you. So, the material miseries of the living entity, which are superfluous to him. So it's saying that miseries have nothing to do with you. But, as it says in the previous verse, if you think it has something to do with you, then you suffer. Okay, so that's your homework, is to read those 2 verses and explain how the soul is transcendental and it's eternal. It's never mixed with material nature. It's only covered. But yet it's possible that the soul can suffer even though it's transcendental and eternal. What'd you say, Harish? Read Canto 1, Chapter 5, verses 5 and 6. Right? Canto 1, Chapter 7, verses 5 and 6. And what you're going to try and explain is that even though the soul is eternal and it doesn't get changed in any way by coming into the material world, and is transcendental to the material world, meaning the modes of material nature, by ignorance it suffers, although it's not really subject to suffering. But as soon as you become attached to something material, then you begin to suffer. And the soul, even though it's transcendental and it's not mixed or changed in any way by coming in contact with material nature, still, by ignorance, it can suffer. It's an amazing point. You see, this is how dangerous material education is. By material education, you learn to suffer, although you're not subject to it. Okay, that's our homework for today. Now, the soul does nothing, but yet it can still suffer because of ignorance. And the body is doing everything. The body is forced to eat, the body is forced to pass stool and urine, the body is forced to sleep, it's forced to get up, it's forced to work, it's forced to do everything by the influence of the modes of material nature. And what is Krishna consciousness teaching us? To rise above the influence of the modes of material nature. So this answers why there's suffering in life. And also, Canto 1, Chapter 7, verse 5 explains how you can be free from all suffering. So that's the second part of your homework. You're explaining, one, why people suffer, even though the soul's eternal. And number two, how to get out of the suffering. That's the homework. Why people suffer, point one. Point two, how to get out of suffering. You got that, Tulsi? Did you write it down? You wrote it down, how to get out of suffering? The second part of the homework? Write it down. First part is, why do people suffer even though the soul is eternal? And second point is, how to get out of suffering. Got that, Samart? 1.7.5. That's why I was questioning what you said. It says, here that this means that the soul neither performs activities, correct, nor reacts in material nature. So what do you mean by reacts? Yeah, but the soul gets affected. Yeah. Oh no, previous to that, let's see. The body on the other hand is purely made of the modes of material nature and is temporary. No, the body on the other hand is influenced by the modes of material nature. When you say purely made of, it's influenced, and therefore you get a certain body depending on the mode of material nature. Okay, you got your homework tomorrow? I mean, tomorrow, yeah, tomorrow, right? Saturday. Wow. Okay, so now, today we came up with some questions, right? For example, when some of your friends or some of your teachers, they tried to confuse you about not eating eggs, right? What was their argument? What did they say about eating eggs? Yes, Tulsi. Tastes good and good for health. Okay. Anything else? So that's an unfertilized eggs, as opposed to a fertilized eggs. Okay. Anything else they said? Any other arguments they gave you? Yeah, so, I mean, if they eat the egg of a chicken, why don't they eat the egg of a human being? Huh? Yeah, a human being. Mothers have eggs every month, thousands of them. Why don't they eat those eggs? Yes? You mean a pizza? Pizza with pepperoni? So is that the pepperoni is from a pig? Yeah. Shirada Nilmadvi Kije. Who told you that? An Indian kid? Okay. So when they walk down the street in India, they see a pig, and they say, "Oh, we don't eat pigs." Then they go to the pizzeria and they buy a pepperoni pizza. Is that what they said? In India. Wow, that's great. In India, people see pigs and say, "I don't eat pig." But then they go to a pizza shop in India, right? A pizza shop in India? In India, and order a pepperoni pizza. Interesting. Very interesting. That's called a disconnect. On one hand, they say, "I don't eat pig." On the other hand, they order pepperoni pizza. They're hoping you don't know what it's pepperoni. Yeah. Wow. Haribol. These are Indian stories. Yeah, of course. Well, you know, when in doubt, ask a question. From who? From the burger shop guy or from a Shiksha or Diksha guru? But never act when you're in doubt about something. Yes, yes, Tulsi. Does he live in Seattle?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he lives in Seattle. So he went to the pizzeria and then he said, can I have a pizza? Okay, so over there it's called so they're new to America, like before.
What?
So when they were new to America, they went to pizzeria and they asked for a pizza,
Yeah.
and then they put pepperoni in it. So he thought it was a tomato, and then he took one and ate it.
I mean, a pepperoni?
Yeah, like a piece of pepperoni.
He thought it was a tomato. Yeah. Well, you should tell him, listen, uncle, when in doubt, ask Shiksha or Diksha guru. Don't just order it with assuming that you know what it's all about. You see, that's why that's one of the rules. When in doubt, ask Shiksha or Diksha guru. Just don't go ahead and eat something if you have a doubt about it, and if you don't know what's in it. Okay, Haribol. So is he still a Brahmin now that he ate meat? No. First of all, why would he walk into a pizza shop and eat something that is not cooked by a Brahmin? Brahmins are not allowed to eat things that are not cooked by Brahmins. I mean, real Brahmins. Right. That's the problem. Okay. It's getting more and more interesting.